So welcome to podcast number 12. This time I sit down with the very eloquent Moschops. Maybe I'm only saying eloquent because of his nice English accent. Moschops is the creator of the recent Scratch Fossils record that was released on Cut and Paste, and he's an OG of the Ireland hip-hop scene, even though he himself hails from England. Such an OG that I met some Irish people who didn't know him personally, and they were like arguing with me that he was Irish, but he's not. I first saw Moschops perform at the Community Scratch Barbecue, and I think either 2014 or 15, I'm not sure. And then again, I saw his sets during the Scratch Blast Tour in 2017. And I was familiar with some of his music that I downloaded off Bandcamp from Community Scratch stuff, so I really liked, there was a few of the tracks that were always on repeat in my car. And the thing that kind of struck me about his music was the creativeness and the fun behind it. If you meet him, he has a certain, kind of a playful twinkle in his eye, which I think kind of comes through in the stuff that he does. I remember Sai telling me about how his house had a massive collection of recordings and books and audio doodads and tinkerings, and like the scratch book that he made, which is like a large hardback book, and when you crack open and close the lid, it makes little scratch sounds. So this was one of my favorite talks to date. He really gives interesting insights into the music and scratching. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you guys do as well. For the performance video, he sent me a video he recently made with a friend. And for those who are only listening and can't see it, he's actually sitting at a table, but the table's attached to a bike, and it's riding around. And so he's sitting there and having a scratch on a portable turntable while passing through a mall. I kind of like that when I asked him if he wanted anything specific for his performance video, he didn't put any of a super technical demonstration of his scratch skills, which he does have in spades, but he gave me a fun video that he made, just having a cut and a laugh, which is kind of classic Moschops, basically. So as always, please support the podcast by downloading the Playground app. We've got lots of free beats for scratching, including the great one by Thud Rumble, and we recently worked on the looping function, so it works much better now. Loop a beat, have a cut, or jam over the loop as well. And don't forget to support Moschops as well. I'll throw in some links to a scratch record. It's out in both 12 and 7-inch formats, and there's a really cool mini doc that Lonewolfs of Nozzle created from the Scratch Blast Tour. You can see one of his full sets there, so I'll link that up as well. So enjoy it. We've got lots of great guests coming soon from far-flung corners of the world. So don't forget, you can always watch or listen on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Alexa, Google Home, and Castbox. There's a bunch of podcast networks, basically. I kind of try to throw it everywhere as possible so you can find it. And that's it. If you guys are around at the Sample Music Festival in August or Community Scratch Barbecue, make sure to say what's up. I'll be doing a lot more podcasts of those because I don't know if you guys have seen the poster for the lineups, but it's insane. There's a million dope scratchers there. So, enjoy it and see you next time. Peace. All right, so I'll start with the old, what's your name? Who are you?
My name is Harry, Moschops, and I'm from Milton Keynes in England. I've spent 11 years in Ireland playing gigs, doing some scratching. That's where I met the people involved in the Community Scratch Games, which we're at the moment, 2019. Brilliant experience getting to hear the new music. I love digging records, so I kind of maybe have a foot in the past and still striding ahead trying to make beat tapes, and just had a record out on cut and paste called Scratch Fossils. So we'll talk a bit about that as well, I think.
That's a good one. Yeah, so I'm curious because I know you lived in Ireland for a bit, but you weren't obviously not from Ireland.
No.
But so you were born in Milton Keynes? You like born and raised in Milton Keynes? Right?
Yeah. So my mum's from there, and the name Webley, which is my second name, I've given it away now, look, that's from Hereford, like Wales and stuff. So I feel really English.
Yeah.
But then I did find out my granddad's mum was from Cork. And I think everybody has maybe some kind of desire to come from Ireland, because in many ways it feels like the start of something. This could be the start of something. It's a really...
you're telling me, Americans are always like, I'm 50% Irish, or I'm 20% Irish, or...
But coming here and just the kindness and generosity that the people show me, because the last few years living here, I was just cruising around in my car, staying with friends and stuff, and just having that network. It taught me so much about myself, and I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is the ability to continually learn new skills and develop yourself as a human being. So that's kind of one of.
So how did music start for you? How did you get into it? Like,
I was fortunate. Yeah.
Forced into it.
Yeah. My dad had a music studio. He was a bass player. He was a very accomplished swimmer, and he kind of didn't like that direction and wanted to play bass, and learned under a guy called Herbie Flowers, who played bass for War of the Worlds, Lou Reed, that Walk on the Wild Side. When I was young growing up, there were maybe interactions that I had with some top musicians. My dad knew DJs and stuff.
Being around, basically.
Being around. I made a tape when I was about 12 called Ghost Tunnel, which was my first musical adventure. It was all sound effects, because we did
such a cool name.
Yeah, we'd go into the Ghost Tunnel.
Was that based on something? Like, did you guys have like a tunnel you guys walked by as kids?
Yeah,
or
it was
something?
in the school. Like, we had this end of year thing where we made tunnels out of like stage blocks and covered them in mats, and the younger kids used to come in and we'd scare them, and so we made all these scary sounds. Oh, it's brilliant, golden memories. But I remember having like dreams of music and hearing melodies when I was young, and wanting to kind of put those melodies down. So I have a cassette at home, still got it, and I put on it Haz's Hot Hit, and that was my first like song. And my dad.
When was that? How old were you then? That was the 12th time, when you were 12? I
was probably about 13 when I made that.
But you were already, I guess, playing some sort of instrument or messing with music?
When I was about 13, I got given my first rave tape. So where I live in Milton Keynes, there was a big warehouse called the Sanctuary, and they'd hold events like Dreamscape and Helter Skelter, and they'd have the most radical flyers. You'd go down to the record store, because I'd just gone into secondary school, and like every lunchtime you go to the record store, and it like smelt really strange, and there was like really interesting looking individuals, like big men, listening to bassy music, and you're like, whoa, you're intrigued by it. We used to get the flyers. I had a paper round at the time, and getting the tape, just started buying records. It just felt like a natural thing. And that became my thing. I used to sit at home with my headphones on. I didn't want anybody to hear my music. It was like, this is my rave music, And
do you remember what your parents thought about it, or like your dad?
They were really happy that I'd kind of found something that I was really into. I was just really into it, in a deep way. I was always into like music in the respect of it being around. A big influencer was a musical version of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. A guy called Jeff Wayne did that, and there was all these orchestral pieces in that. And that was really a big inspiration for how I wanted to approach my first album. So I made an album that was a concept kind of thing, and it was a real labour of love, and it should have come out a lot sooner than it did. But in that process, it kind of enabled me to speed up how fast I produce.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's one of the kind of really interesting things when you hang around musicians, to kind of see different work rates and how people operate.
Yeah, how the processes they go through
Yeah,
to create
yeah.
and get down what's in their head.
Not trying to overthink it sometimes.
Yeah. How old were you when that first album came out?
Oh, that was 2012. I'd had other records before that.
No, yeah.
But it was
somebody told me you had a record when you were 16.
Yeah, that was under a different name. That was DJ Rerun.
DJ Rerun?
Yeah, that was cool because we hung out with, basically my dad knew this guy called Picky, and Picky worked in the store that I was telling you about. It was called, it was World Beats, then it was Treehouse, and it was Fat Tracks, and I ended up working in Fat Tracks. And Picky was a guy there who was a DJ, and there was a few guys in and around the scene at the time, and I got introduced to Picky. He came over when I was about like 15 probably. I was playing in the rave tunes because at that time I'd kind of like developed into actually making the music that I was hearing on tape.
Yeah.
So it was like happy hardcore. So it's very formulaic.
Right.
You start with the kick drum, hi-hat comes in, lash in the aim in, bang out some pianos, so you just kind of rinse out those tracks. And I remember like searching for acapellas, like even if it was like that short, if it was a girl going, yes, I've got a tune out of that. So Picky heard the tracks and he introduced me to a guy called DJ Clarkey, who's probably one of the like most hardcore gabba DJs in England, and it was quite young and it was quite explicit music, and I had some really
How old was Clarkey at the time?
I don't know, he's probably like 30 or something.
Yeah.
When you're that young, it's just like ancient.
Totally. No, yeah, that's what I was curious, like if he was around your age or he was actually an older dude.
I did meet some younger guys, there's like hazy memories of going to free parties, because that was one of the things as well. When I started to drive, when I was like 17, there was these Junction 14 parties that you'd get a number and you'd kind of go out in a bit of a convoy and you'd find these raves. I remember like sometimes there was one time there was a guy and he was cutting it up on a Vestax, and I was scratching at the time a little bit, and he just like was so much ahead of me, and it's just like wow. So yeah, I got really great memories of those kind of rave days, because I was sober. That was a big thing. That was kind of, it shaped my attitude to music very much, because having a window into that post 1993, because there was that Criminal Justice Bill Act that came in 93. And I have all these rave magazines that kind of span that period of time. It's really interesting to see how the politics of the country influenced the rave scene, and the genres kind of breaking up in a sense, the different attitudes. So that's another part of why music's fascinating, because rather than looking at history as a series of wars, it's like music is a way to kind of determine the ideas that were developing at a given time. The Prodigy was a huge rave act that kind of broke through, and their whole artwork was very much like fingers to the system and stuff. Even still there's that kind of attitude, but it's how do you kind of use that as a metaphor to create something good. So like the name hip hop to me kind of means things, but like the word scratch has come to mean, how do you make something out of nothing that's good, that is like a lifeline. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm talking about all these experiences when I was younger, meeting up with these older people and them showing me the way. It's like I feel that obligation to do the same to people now. And so these community scratch games events, there's always younger people coming through. There was a lad who played yesterday at the start, William and the Sainsbury's. It was a very obscure kind of setup, but that's exactly what I want to see. People who kind of are ready to step up and do their thing.
He was. I watched this set and I was like, I gotta check out what's going on over there before I even listen. And like everybody was cheering pretty hard for him when he'd finished the song, and I think I kind of got the impression he wasn't used to that yet. Like he's a little uncomfortable when we started cheering, like look a little embarrassed and sheepish. When he,
it's hard to take a compliment.
Yeah. That was interesting stuff. That dude stuff. So then, when you started making, like happy hardcore stuff, what were you using? How were you building this stuff?
It was like a tracking software. It wasn't like the old ones that we type in the code. It was something called Notator. It was on an Atari, so there was no sounds in the computer. It was all MIDI.
Yeah.
So you'd like, even then I remember kind of like, how fast can I make the tempo and MIDI notes, and you'd kind of test your synths to see where they broke down.
How?
And it would go, it's like, oh wow. So that was really what started me getting into like making noise and stuff. So
Yeah.
after the formulaic hardcore and doing that, I was making garage tunes. I was engineering music because I had the facilities.
Yeah.
Working in the store, people wanted to make tunes, so they'd come back to the gaff.
Right.
And my dad was pretty sound about it. You know, he always had like a good kind of like, he trusted me, you know, in my ability to make a decision that I'm not going to bring just like Smokey Joe to come back. You know, it was like we're doing a project. But yeah, like after kind of making rave for a while, it did get very frustrating. And I think at that time, for many people, you know, you kind of leave in school and there's anxiety about what life has in store.
Right.
And you start working in a job and you're like, this isn't me, you know? So looking for ways out of that was definitely experimenting with noise. And my brother was a guitarist. He had some really good Dan Electro pedals that are really like heavy. So I used to run my samples through them and make dubs of just like just crazy noises, like had reel to reels, and I was just messing with stuff, you know. And I still have all those things, and sometimes I draw on that very much. My production is like continually dredging up this ocean of Moschops, which is
the fossils.
Yeah, it's the fossils. Yeah, that was a very apt title, I think. Yeah, because that was really a collection of so many sounds that I had, because I've always had an idea to do a scratch record, and I did make one in 2005 with Brian Savage for the Battles, and it didn't really kind of cut to the disc amazingly. The quality was low, so when the Scratch Fossils came out and the quality was high, it was just excellent to kind of see my own development, you know.
Yeah. But it sounds like you a lot of people I talk to don't have stuff they made, you know, especially not when they were a teenager. It sounds like you've kept all that media around, right? Like you still have tons of old recordings.
Yeah, in some sense, it's kind of like there's that archivist streak to what I do.
Yeah.
You know, like I've got boxes of tapes that my dad recorded. You know, he'd kind of be getting all these keyboards and test them out. So I have like bizarre stuff to go through. It's just kind of creating that habit where you allow yourself that time to do it.
To have the process.
Yeah. So just time is what I value the most, and you need time to go digging for sounds.
Yeah. So then that was when you're 15, 16-ish, you're doing this stuff, you're starting off with this. How did scratching play into all that? And you said you were scratching a little bit, but like...
I bought a tape, it was a DMC, the USA DMC 92. Like loads of guys that I've not really heard of even since, like DJ Hassan, the Dream Team was on it, like Hubert and stuff. But it was the first time I'd seen beat juggling. Like the guys in the store would like do some scratching.
Right.
And I was like, I saw that really as an opportunity where I could excel, you know, because the scratching, I thought it was called the whistle attack at first. I didn't know it was called scratching. It was like on the tapes, whistle, whistle, whistle attack. So I was very naive to the whole scratch culture.
Right.
But then when the internet happened in 96, 97, you know, really early days, there was the Invisible Scratch Pickles
the forums,
and that was really kind of hungry for what it was, buying stuff on Turntable Lab, you know, just starting to get my first breaks record.
I always loved Turntable Lab. I always wished I lived in New York just for Turntable Lab.
Yeah.
Just to be able to pop in, you know, or something like that. It seemed they did such a good job with their online store that it always just seemed like the coolest place in the world.
It was, wasn't it? Like, I was buying like break DVDs, you know, like breaking and all this stuff. I was just really hungry into what was happening.
Yeah.
Like the graph stuff as well. I just love it all.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that really appealed to me about hip hop is that how it's based on movement. You know, the artistic graffiti, the language, the breaking, just that whole thing. And there was someone breaking on Saturday night, busting out some stuff, and it just gets people hyped. Gets people loose.
Yeah, man, without a doubt. Like there used to be a hip hop night in my hometown that the breakers would go down to, and it just like turned it into like the coolest night ever because they make a circle and start going off, and then you know somebody would get some balls up who barely knew how to do the worm and go for it, and everybody be cheering and stuff.
I haven't bust any moves yet.
Yeah.
I've probably bust me legs trying to do it. It's hard. Breaking is so hard.
Blam used to break dance. I didn't know that, but I found yesterday he was really into it. He's like spent a lot of time on it, and he's like he got into locking after that.
Yeah.
And he was well into it. I had no idea.
But so was there anybody else in Milton Keynes that you were hanging out that was doing some scratching too? Like, was there anybody? Because you see all the DMC in the kind of far away.
There was a guy called Manifest. You know, obviously being young, there's that hunger. Well, I had that hunger. You know, who's doing it? And it was back then, I suppose, with the whole DMCs, there was that kind of competitiveness about it because that's how the structure was. You know, you're the world champion, and so Manifest was just another guy who was scratching. I haven't really actually even met him. Only kind of like in passing. There was, because of the production, there was producers that I was kind of getting to know and stuff. But no, it was a very unique thing at the time. So I guess for many years I was just scratching by myself and laying down those foundations which I just still draw upon. You know, my scratch is quite basic in many respects, and you know, I'm still learning that, but the foundations are there because I just persisted. It took me a long time to learn. A long time. I've still got tapes of me trying to do like the crabs and the clicks. It just sounds horrible, but I had to do it in order to get here. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's whenever we have somebody that's like real new at scratching, giving it a go, like a friend or somebody, and they're trying to learn to chirp or something, you know. And especially I could see they're self-conscious when we're in a group of like really good scratchers, and it's like, don't worry, we've all been worse as you. At some point, we've all been exactly the same or worse.
But sometimes
everyone in here,
those people can come in and they can do something that just kind of has everybody going, because they've got no preconceived idea of what it is. I've done a few workshops through the years teaching people kind of, I wouldn't say how to scratch because I don't think they're necessarily going to go on and do that, but it's kind of principles of music and just trying to. I guess one of the key things about workshops is to listen to what the people who are there in the first place are kind of wanting from you, you know? You just kind of like hit them with a barrage of stuff. Yes, they're going to kind of like seem as if they're really enjoying it, but it can be maybe a bit traumatic.
Right,
you know?
Yeah.
So it's
hard to process and don't remember once they've left. Yeah.
So it's difficult to do the workshops and to kind of stay consistent in what it was for me in focusing on developing myself as an artist because you're kind of dividing your time up in a certain way. So props to anybody who kind of really pushes through and does that. You know, there's plenty out there.
Yeah, I love how Vec's doing his online Twitch stuff, his classes of like juggling, beat juggling classes and scratching classes, and like he's always, you know, in the comments, is there anything here before I move on that you guys want to know more, or like tell me what you want that next class to be, what topics are more interesting to you, and the most common thing I'll make a class on, and like it's pretty amazing what he's been doing with.
Is that open source? Is that something?
Yeah, he's doing it on Twitch. You can get some kind of extra stuff if you pay, like extra access, you know. He'll even he does like okay, we're gonna talk about beat juggling today and old routines, and then at the end he might review people's routines. So he'll like send in your routine and I'll review it live, and so he'll tell you like, okay, I like what you're going for here, you know, work on this and you should really think about this and this kind of composition. It's really amazing what he's doing with that. Like, and he's been holding these battles, the noobs battles. So like there was a noob scratch battle, no like advanced scratchers allowed.
Right. How do you implement that? You know.
You could tell like the guys who win are good, but they're definitely like still new to the thing, and he did a noobs juggling one. So he does a bunch of lessons up to it, like 2 or 3 like how to build a scratch battle set or whatever, and then has the battle. So you gotta like kind of learn, and then you gotta apply it. Basically.
I'm getting butterflies already.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
That was a great thing about doing the battles, kind of like actually engaging with yourself in a much deeper way than you would normally, like just like the adrenaline, the nerves, all these kind of things. That's kind of like fortifies the soul, you know.
It's a big difference too between the online ones and the public, you know what I mean? Like an online one you can record 180 times wait for the nerves to wait, but the in person it's a whole new ballgame.
But it's something special when you have that room of people, and that's why I think that anybody who does it in their bedroom, these events are here for you to maybe come and check out, and you know, develop by sharing it. You know, sharing is a big part of why I'm still doing it. You know, and I think someone asked me a very pertinent question. You know, what are you going to take away from the games? You know, it's kind of another impromptu interview on the bar there, and I think it's the kind of ability to take this flame to wherever you are living. You don't have to hold an event, but you just kind of you embrace the possibility that you're a key person that can make things happen, you know. And I feel that with Milton Keynes, you know, growing up there, there's a lot of talent, I think, that just doesn't have a way to get heard. So that community scratch games, and it's also like Super Scratch Sunday, all these events. Right. That's important for me to stay connected to, because it's a real thing, you know. Just humans getting together.
So how did it come to go back in the past again? So then when did you move to Ireland from Milton Keynes?
2001. So I went to Australia for a year.
Oh, okay.
With a beat tape.
Yeah.
That was like my first hip hop beats, and when I got there, I sent them into radio stations, and I remember getting up early one morning to tape. They played my beat on the morning, and they had the whole. They basically read the letters like, "Hello, my name is Harry Webley. I'm in Australia for 1 year on a working visa, and this is my song." And they played my beat. So anyway, I was just going into clothes stores, anywhere that kind of like had have decks and stuff. Cutting up with a few people. Ended up hanging out with a crew called Downside. They're like an extended crew. Downside with a crew in Syllabolics, which was an extended crew from Perth. So there was like Layla, Clandestine. There was loads of Axe Draft, Hunter. I might go on and stuff. So I got to see these MCs and producers really living their life, going and playing shows, doing big festivals. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to make beats. I want to scratch. And then travelling around Australia a bit, you meet people, you end up different places where you started, in Ireland, hungry to kind of get involved. So looking about who was rapping, wanting to make beats, ended up chilling on a couch, not too dissimilar to this couch, and being asked to be in a crew called Urban Intelligence. And that was a couple of young lads from a place called Ballymun, which is in the north of Dublin, North City, Dublin. And they just had a real raw sound, and I was like, yeah.
And Ballymun, that's kind of near where Jack's from, right?
Yeah, he's just gone like the estate over, and
okay.
So I was embraced into that, and it was initiation really, you know, like into kind of a working class mindset, or just
I was gonna say, what's the area like? I mean,
it's renowned for being like a place where they packed people in, you know, like there has historically been trouble there. They built these big flats up, and you stack people up on top of each other. It creates problems. So, but they've regenerated it, and they built this wonderful place called the Axis, which is like a theatre, which was like the hub of a lot of the activity that I did in Ballymun. Like I said, doing the workshops, getting to meet people, and through that I got to travel to New York, Cape Town, and I mean that's one of the things that music can do. It's like a key to the world, and so I'm hoping to do some more traveling and
But how old were you when you first moved over there to Ireland? Sorry, so you went to Australia for a year.
Yeah, I was 21.
Like early 20s, basically. Yeah.
Clueless. But you know,
because that was probably around the time like the hip hop scene kind of kicked off here, right, in Ireland in general.
It was kind of coming back. There's kind of historical things. I did a Irish hip hop mixtape because one hadn't been done. There were different crews who had albums.
Like I think Simon, I don't know Simon's artist name or last name.
Nathaniel's Dust.
Yeah, so he was kind of the first, from what I understand from people, he was the first kind of hip hop record put out in Ireland.
Right. But, yeah, I would be able to.
And I'm thinking that's around the same time.
Yeah, there was like Deep Burial were another group that had records out there, very deep instrumental stuff. Before that, there was Scary Air, and they really kind of had a meteoric rise, and there were complications and kind of what could have been didn't happen, but nonetheless that reverberation kind of continued. So it was just ripples in time, and there was definitely things happening when I got involved with Urban Intelligence, but we were putting on gigs as well. We ended up kind of finding a manager who turned out to be an amazing inspiration in my life, John Doe, and he got an ambulance, and we were driving around to villages around Ireland, just setting up the decks on the like roundabouts, hammering in signs along the motorways, and they were getting ripped out. But you know, we were just going for it, you know. And like doing the mixtape, putting out EPs. That was kind of my kind of like drive, you know. I want, because my dad always said to me, it's just like, finish the job. You know, making the music's the easy part. You know, in a way. So I kind of, a lot of people struggle to kind of finish projects, kind of get closure on it.
Yeah.
And so we had an EP out, and there's the label Working Class Records has got like about 20 releases. You know, I did a full production album with a guy called Costello in 2013, and that was a great opportunity for me to kind of go into the boom bap sound, and because I like producing all kinds of things. You know, it's fun for me. It's fun to try out.
Yeah,
you never know quite. You know, like with dubstep hit, you know, trying to make dubstep tune, they just come out all wrong, but there's something in there that kind of opens up another.
I remember when I first heard dubstep, I was at a bar, and I remember being like, the first impression was, did some scratcher make that from Dirt Style record? I don't remember what track I heard or whatever, but it almost sounded like scratch music to me, but I didn't hear scratches.
Did it go like this?
Exactly, right? And I was like, oh, I first thought, like, I wonder what scratcher made this. And, like, that was the first impression of dubstep, but it quickly changed, too, what the sound sounded like quickly, because it was real new then, and then, like, a few months later, what I was hearing all the time was different than what I first heard, you know? It seemed to evolve real quickly, dubstep, right?
Yeah.
Change and get really huge quick.
Yeah, I remember getting a compilation on Reflex record just called Grime, and it just had all these different tracks, like various tempos. There were breaks in there. Some of the beats were all syncopated, and it was just really different. And I think that's the kind of thing, like in historical terms, there's this Cambrian explosion where it's just suddenly all this life seems to appear in the fossil record. It's just like in that initial burst, like supernova, and then there's just so much happening, and it's happening now. It's just like there's all these kind of scenes that are popping off, and everyone's, you know, creating music now, and sometimes you could say that dilutes it, but nonetheless, there's always going to be invention within music. It really, there is no limit, I don't think. I think that there's maybe a lot that we can learn from the past in terms of composition, how to kind of tell a story, and I think that's one of the things that appeals to me in scratch music, is the ability to use different samples and kind of weave them together in such a way that you create something that wasn't there before. You know, it's like a new discovery.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, when you mentioned earlier when I asked you about how you were making happy hardcore stuff, and you're like, oh, you know, I'm using this program and, like, doing MIDI out to all my synth stuff, but you were like 16, 17, 18, the internet isn't really, like, possible to look up a tutorial. No. So, like, how are you even figuring out how to use that hardware?
I knew the snares went on 2 and 4. Yeah. And I knew the kicks went on 1, 2, 3, and 4. But you just hear stuff.
But I mean, even to the technical aspect, because it seems quite technical.
Using a sampler and building the programs. Yeah. Like I say, my dad was obviously using it as well. I don't really have strong memories of him like labouring to show me. I think that for me it was just there was a genuine passion to learn. So at whatever cost. The only, you know, I did have bad habits. Like instead of naming all my samples, I'd just be like NGV, you know. So that made it hard to navigate, and that's been kind of a slow process. And Scratch Fossils was a really important development in how I approach, you know,
like cataloging,
collating. Because I did so much work to develop the record, about 5 times the amount of material that didn't make it on, and so I think that there's going to be another record somewhere down the line, but I'm still kind of collating ideas, things that I want to do with that.
And then also you kind of seemed like you're into messing around with some electronics, a bit of soldering as well. Like, how did that get in, or that was just always kind of there on the side?
Not really. I think the guy I met recently, Cuttlefish, he had these really cool faders, and I just felt that I was interested in that before, but it was just kind of a door opened. It was just like, I can do this. Jack Ejaculate said something to me. It's just like, use your hands. If you use your hands, then you're always going to be a wealthy man, you know, because you can create something. So doing the electronics and having the patience to do it, that's something that I'm kind of keen to expand. I like learning all about just how things work, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm no virtuoso at any of that stuff, but I have ideas, and if I want to do it, and then I kind of.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of taking things apart, especially if they're broken, and fixing them yourself, like electronics.
See my loft, man. It's just lots of old keyboards and stuff, but working on a few bits. Got some little chips, ISD 1820s. They're like things similar to what you'd get in those birthday cards. So I'm trying to.
Well, yeah, I was actually I was going to get to that, or in a sense, it was like the scratchbook.
Oh yeah, the scratchbook.
Because I saw the video of you guys playing with that. I guess from Scratch Blast Tour stuff. Like, how did that come about, or how did you even what was the process behind it?
I worked for a company for a while called Spy Games, and I was doing some Segway stuff. I was having a great time outdoors, meeting loads of people. Because when you're in Ireland for a long time, you move back to England, you're not quite sure of the lay of the land,
Right, yeah, of course.
So it was a great opportunity to meet thousands of people, even though it's just for an hour. So Spy Games, they had like gadgets and stuff like this, and it's a big part of kind of the kind of popular culture, James Bond, these films. So when you're young, you're kind of, there's spy books, how to use lemon juice to make invisible ink and stuff. So that it just like cutting out a book is something that maybe it's a fun thing to do.
I tried it when I was a kid to make I could hide my weed in it or whatever book, and like just hack that with like a kitchen steak knife forever and carved out
codes and ciphers, like I live near a place called Bletchley Park, and they did loads of codes and stuff, and it's trying to understand the wider world, I guess. And the scratchbook was just an idea I had, but there's plenty more ideas. When you just look at what humans do, you can just kind of take that and create a new things. Like the metaphor, I think that's the kind of key to making discoveries. Like bringing things together that haven't been brought together before, and having fun with it. It was a fun project to do.
Yeah.
And I made a few other cool ones. I think there's a couple more at Jimmy's gaff that I made.
Yeah.
Just all these IC chips, they just do mad stuff.
Yeah.
Plug them in and try not to electrocute yourself. I did have an Arduino blow up just before I came out with that puff of smoke. It was
no.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember those disposable cameras they had.
Yeah.
I had heard that the charging, the thing you charge up is like holds a mean charge in it.
Right.
And the flash, and so I thought, well, maybe I could build like a taser type thing out of it. And I don't have any clue what I'm doing, so I opened it up. I could see it all there. There's this big like battery looking thing, and I hold the charge button, charge it up, and I touch the end of the battery thing, and wow! Like it burned me, like it nailed me so hard.
Did you move really quick?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. I mean, it shocked the holy hell out of me. So then I was like, oh, I can just put a wire to that, and I can hold that wire by the rubber, and I can nail my friends.
I got shocked by the house mains one time. It's like, bam!
Oh yeah.
Oh, and that's where I got my superpowers.
That's how I have my wife. Like the one of those flip switches, the back plastic part fell off, and she just saw it and went to go flip it, and it touched the back and got the mains like straight to her. And was like, that hurt so bad. I was like, oh my god, I almost died.
There's a funny guy on YouTube called Electro Boom, and I think he has a high tolerance for pain, so he's able to describe certain principles in electronics and get shocked in the process. So being able to use humour as an educational tool is great, and that's another thing about scratch games and just these events. There's a lot of funny people,
Yeah, man.
A lot of laughter.
Everybody's like big smiles and lots of congratulations and cheering for whatever that person's up to, and it's really fun, man.
Good times.
How long were you in Ireland for then?
2001 to about 2012.
Oh, okay, yeah, a huge chunk of time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. And I guess you met Jack during that time and all the guys, or
kind of early on, yeah. Like in Dublin, there was a store on the quays called X Music, and it was where you could go and have a cut because they had the deck set up.
Yeah.
So kind of word got around that there was this English guy kind of cutting, and and you kind of you gravitate towards each other, I suppose.
Right.
And Jack's been a big inspiration. When I knew him first, I knew he did some scratching and stuff, and he was in a few bands and whatnot.
Yeah.
But in the time that I've known him, he's learned saxophone, and just his kind of attitude to practice. Is a very healthy one, and I think that's the key thing. Personally, there were a few years in my life, mid-20s, where I wasn't practicing. I kind of had that attitude. Yeah, I can scratch. And it was a bad attitude.
I think everybody goes through that to some extent at some point.
You just got to kind of realise it. Have I got a bad attitude? Yeah, maybe I need to change this. So, wake up call.
Yeah, definitely. Like I heard that I remember that one track, the "Praying for Rain," for the lack of a better. I don't know if that's the actual title.
That's the official title, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's a 4 instead of
Yeah, because I got it from Jimmy. I guess it's 2014 or 13 or
we
something.
did 2 tracks for the compilations that Jimmy were putting out.
Yeah.
The first one, which was G.G. Peniston, and then the next one, Break. It really is kind of like, we need to call this something, Jack. And it's
like the "Praying for Rain" one. You know how you associate stuff, like I know the story behind that, and you put it to like some story of in your life, you know what I mean? So at the time I was like, oh yeah, this is totally like me being in trouble with the wife, and like, you know, I'm making trouble, I'm always up to trouble, getting in trouble, and then she's always like, you know, let's go for a nice long hike today, and I'm like, I just want to scratch, like, so I'm praying for rain, you know? I'm like,
don't forget the last sample.
Yeah.
Stay out of trouble.
Yeah, stay out of trouble. But yeah, I was like, I loved that track, and I didn't realize it was the two of you. I didn't really, you know, I never look at track lists, so, and then
that was more like I was kind of like engineering. Jack did a lot of the performancing because he plays that as one of his live pieces.
You know? Yeah, that's the thing. I saw him play it live, and I didn't know him yet, and I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally. And like, and so I was actually at the barbecue, sitting down at the table, and I hear it start up, and I was like. And it was like my favorite track of that year, and I was constantly on in my car and stuff. So I was like, I ran to the front and was like, I gotta listen to this and see how he's doing that.
A lot of brainstorming goes in making those tracks. When we work together, it tends to be kind of in a concentrated period of time, and so not really much time to think too deeply about what samples we want to kind of find. It's really very much we need something, and so we just research really quick. But I think that, you know, developing your memory, one of the things about using computers, I think, is that you're continually having to make choices in terms of how you navigate through the operating system.
Right.
So when you're using turntables, there's perhaps parts of your brain that can be a bit more active in actually kind of remembering certain threads that might exist on a groove. And, you know, it's quite a magical moment when you're making tunes and you just put out records. It just seems to kind of work. You don't even need to pitch it. You know, there's some kind of special... thing that you kind of just have to be open to, you know.
Right, yeah.
And making beats is still probably my favourite thing to do because it's, as Miyamoto Musashi said, life is short, art is long. You know, you can make a song and like you recounting your experience with that song, it kind of can touch people, you know. It's a wonderful honour to do that, and to have the technology just to kind of get it across the world is unreal. So.
Yeah, I mean, I got that, you know, I downloaded it from Jimmy posting the compilation album or whatever, and like, because I was like, I'm going to the games, and there's a compilation out before we go, like, check it out. And then,
musical upgrade. And
I had it on USB in my car on the radio, the USB stick, and it literally is like the one thing I always keep on the USB, that compilation, and just like, found a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah, there was one track, I think, like, Lewis James is on there, and Clockwork, Manipulate, Jimmy. I can't remember the title of it. The lads will probably tell me when they watch the video, but they're scratching through a vocode. It just sounds so rad. So I love doing stuff like that. You know, putting your decks through audio to MIDI converters and plugging all that stuff. Experimentation. In the creation process, you know.
Like when you're making stuff these days or making beats, like what are you usually using like these days? Are you really all over the place, or you?
Well,
is your kind of like your steady, you know, your bass equipment or program or anything like that?
I've got a really sweet rig, but I'm always chopping and changing it around. That's kind of like part of how you have kind of keep yourself fresh in a way. For a long time I was using the SB404, but I actually found it a little bit detrimental making beats because I ended up archiving loads of sounds and not really having the workflow that I kind of aspired to have. So a big breakthrough for me was using the PO33 sampler. Did a bit of a trade with Sai, and just very immediate, and I kind of did a run of about 40 beats on YouTube, and I was like knocking them out every day, and it's just the juices are flowing, you know, and just sharpen up the skills. And like Ableton is obviously such a great program for manipulating sound, but it gives it a certain kind of style, perhaps, you know, depending on what you make stuff with. I do like using MIDI. I think that kind of programming beats in that way is really good, and kind of getting the sounds through a mixing desk. I kind of like that, being able
yeah.
to drive stuff a bit and kind of have bleeding through. So there's loads of elements to explore, and you know, great to hang out with Bethania's Dust. I think me and him have kind of some good ideas about maybe doing some stuff together, and that's one of the challenging things, but the most rewarding if you can collaborate with another artist that you respect their creative output. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to embrace, you know, even if it means going and traveling to another country. Do it.
Yeah,
you know, that's how things happen. Book that ticket.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's the Jimmy talking on your shoulder again.
Yeah.
Really is.
There, yeah.
Yeah, same thing with this podcast. I mean, him just we were like, you know, it'd be cool if there was something out there where they just had like long chats with people about where they came from and how they got into it. And he was like, yeah, do it. And then he sent me a message every like few months. You doing that yet? How's that coming? I'm like, nah. 2 years later, I'm like, all right, I got a camera and a mic. Let's do it. Yeah, he's just, have you done that yet? How's that coming? How's that podcast going? I'm like, it's been a year. Someone started. Like.
Words have power. Hey, you say something, and you know it's just like it can change someone's life. It can kind of be.
Yeah. It can help to vocalize others what your ambitions are too, because then you feel like a little more pressure that you gotta get it done, you know. Like,
pressure can be good,
yeah. Like you put a little pressure on yourself, you know, like tell everybody I'm gonna make an album. And they're like, shit, no, I gotta make an album.
Yeah, you do.
You know.
Words mean nothing without actions, for sure.
You'd be that guy that kept talking about an album that never existed.
I was that guy for a while, you know, like, but you just plow on through, and you know I've made a few beat tapes now, and they're really exciting, but they're kind of short beats. I still like the longer tracks, you know, like a 5-minute tune where you kind of able to go in different places.
Like I've got some random stuff of yours, but I couldn't tell you where the centralized place I would go to like get everything Moschops. Like,
Bandcamp would be a good like place to check out my discography.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember. I definitely have checked out your stuff, but I don't remember where
It's a Synapses Studios.
Stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah, Synapses Studios. Yeah,
that's kind of like the Moschops thing. Yeah. Synapses.
And are you using anything else like SoundCloud or Mixcloud or anything?
Yeah, I've got around 5 SoundClouds.
Yeah, keeping it on the free.
yeah. It's like Moschops, but with X's instead of the O's. You know, like codifying language and just kind of like playing with stuff.
Yeah.
Because Moschops is quite a good word to kind of like you composite, like Mostrumentals.
Yeah.
It's fun to play with, you know.
Right.
I went through phases of names kind of to get to that point, but when I found that one, it really.
When did you start only using Moschops, or when did you?
It was probably when I came to Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's an Irish thing. The kind of like the reptile, you know, the Moschops thing coming back to Ireland. I don't know.
Yeah, because I know like you're definitely associated with Irish hip hop, you know, like as an influencer and the Irish hip hop scene, and like it's funny because I remember thinking like somebody's telling me that, and I was like, but why? Like he studies from the UK, but I had no clue about like you living here. Really, I had no idea at all. Like that's how you met all the boys, and like that's how you got in. Yeah, I had no clue.
Well, I think there's a real strength, like in terms of like the musical family, you know, from Irish English, their relationship is so important in the history of the world. You know, if we can get on, then you know wonderful things happen. You know, we can really do good work together.
Yeah.
So, just genuinely being down for making the hip hop a real thing. You know, playing the shows, supporting. Like someone wants to spit on stage, I'll play instrumentals. You know, just keeping the vibe going. I get on that. That's my high, basically.
Yeah.
You know, if people are doing what they love to do, I love that. You know, just really. I like my sleep, but you know, if there's things happening and I can be involved, then it's great to kind of draw on that eternal energy. And I've learned so much through the hip hop culture in this country, just the language, the slang, and just the attitudes, and it was kind of my growing up. You know, we all have to grow up. You know, we don't stop growing up. It's kind of, and sometimes it's younger people that kind of show you what it is to grow up. It's paradoxical. You know, you kind of have to embrace the paradoxes, because that's sometimes where you make the new discoveries.
Yeah, without a doubt. And are you doing any workshop-y kind of stuff or teaching at all right now, or have you been recently, or are you planning to in the future here?
I'm studying, you know, like didn't get an academic education really.
Right.
You know, I did well in school, but have an aptitude to just sit there and read. And I just love reading. And there's lots of things. You know, I took the 7 liberal arts kind of template long time ago, and I've always been developing my knowledge of arithmetic, geometry, music, and it says astronomy, but like spherics. You know, there's ways that you can kind of categorize your mind in order to kind of like maximize your ability to. Oh, I'm kind of using long words now. When you read books, you use long words, you know, and there's deep stuff. You know, there's deep stuff that it's not that it gets lost, but you have to take the time to kind of learn what has come before. And I've got a fascination in biology. You know, like what. Because it's health, you know. Why am I sick? You know, those questions. Sickness is an opportunity to learn about yourself and grow. And I've got a sore throat and stuff. Obviously, it's partying, but there's deeper things to uncover about yourself. So, knowledge and study. That's kind of the hip hop.
Yeah. And are you doing anything to teach kids or to do any workshops with
there's things
community
happening
stuff right now, or
in Milton Keynes? There's things that are open to me. I haven't done anything
when you have
yet.
some free time or a chance you can.
Well, I have that free time. Like I said earlier, it's about making that step, because when you go that path, it's kind of like you have to devote yourself because you're not doing it for the money. You know, your heart's got to be in the right place. What's my intention? I'm going to be able to see this through, because I don't want to walk into some kid's life and say, hey, you can be this, and then just suddenly disappear, you know. It's kind of like slowly building. And it just, for me, it just starts with having the confidence to like start up a conversation, you know. I'm seeing stuff in Milton Keynes. I'm seeing people like with stereos dancing and kind of. I'm trying to just get out there. I like being outside. I like kind of cruising around on the bike.
Is there a scene that you're aware of right now? Like, is there any new kind of upcoming cool Milton Keynes artists or acts or people that you've seen recently or anything like that?
I'd love to say yes, but I'm still looking. I want to find someone who wants to give me a beat tape. You know, if you're watching this and you live in Milton Keynes or the surrounding areas, you know, like
NK.
Just find me and send me a link. You know. It's not that I can necessarily like do anything other than say, you know, cool. I'll play this to my friends and stuff, but just make that connection. So it's an open invitation just to reach out and connect with your fellow man, you know, or woman, whatever.
Nice one. I guess that's kind of it. I was maybe going to talk to you a little bit about the scratch record, but you already kind of explained how that went and everything.
I think you just have to buy that scratch record. It's different. It's definitely something.
And if you're only on a portable, there's a lovely 7-inch version just waiting for your
brand new
grumpy little picnic hands to scratch up.
I'm going to shout out my man Tops, who did the cover artwork for that.
Oh, that's who did that?
Yeah, he's got a little studio near where I live, and we've been hanging out a little bit together, kind of finding out where there's a natural spring and kind of like going and just hanging out a bit outdoors and kind of getting that sunshine time. And then going in the lab, doing the screen printing and stuff. And so through that, there's other DJs and stuff. So I go there and do a bit of a cut. Okay, I'm going to shout out a guy from Milton Keynes, but he's not an up-and-comer. He's Samaya, you know, he's...
So I didn't realise Samaya was from Milton Keynes.
So I met him a while ago, and there's a label, King Underground, so I'll shout them out while I'm here, you know. They're the people who I know that are really doing it, you know, making things happen.
Samaya's got some really dope stuff, man. Some really cool music.
Yeah, big inspiration. Me and him have good conversations, you know, like similar interests. Kind of challenge each other's beliefs sometimes. You know? But that's good. That's healthy.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
You can't always agree on everything. So.
No, you don't want to be in the bubble, man. Lost in the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I've really enjoyed this, Eric. It's been a really good interview. So thank you.
And sweet. Like, it's good to hear all this stuff. Know a bit of the history, the Moschops history.
Moschops.
You gotta smush that up. Mustard.
So thanks to the whole scratch community worldwide doing their thing.
Yeah, man, big time.
Yeah.
Keep it up. See you fuckers at some scratch events this year.
Cheers.
Later.